Well, it's Wednesday, and you all know what that means. If you probably can guess, WWE Evolve features, of course, as you know, Jackson Drake is our first ever Evolve champion. But the real question we probably ask ourselves, what's next from here? So we'll have to see. But featuring our main event is, of course, the Cardiac Kid, of course, Wes Lee, who is now declaring himself as the gatekeeper to NXT, faces Cappuccino Jones, who has made good impressions, but Wes Lee doesn't believe he has what it takes. We'll have to see what happens until then. But our last review, of course, is going to feature AEW, featuring both Dynamite and Collision in the Summer Blockbuster for at least 4 hours. So this is going to be interesting. We have a lot of things taking place because, as you probably can guess, we are now on the road to All In. So anything can happen before we get there. So we're going to see from A to Z what happens. And then, as usual, we'll end our episode with some news updates to give you guys updates on what's been happening in the world of pro wrestling, such as events the promotions are thrown out, who's booked, when matches are set, including developments that are happening in the world of pro wrestling as we speak. So, let's get ready for another episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Hey everyone, welcome to Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J-Rod here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is a channel we do a lot of pro wrestling reviews from various promotions, not only here in the United States, but also in Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe, the UK, in a world when the world pro wrestling is not as big, but it continues to grow. We also, of course, do discussion videos, talk about various topics such as the wrestlers themselves, the promotions, factions, storylines, whatever we want to talk about. We also, of course, do more news updates. If certain information was unable to be on this episode, we can either put it on the next one or on a separate video by itself. We also, of course, do real-time news updates to keep you guys on alert if something has happened in the world of pro wrestling that needs to be addressed ASAP. We also, of course, got the Unagi Sayaka Watch and various other cool wrestling content as well. So if you like what you see, please subscribe to us or click on that subscribe button. You'll be getting a lot of daily reviews and other cool wrestling content as well. But if you like this episode, please give us a like on the like button or a nice comment in the description down below. Now, enough with the yapping. It's time to go warp speed ahead. So let's begin, of course, with WWE Evolved. Okay, WWE Evolved. Now, as I mentioned before, we have a brand new Evolved Men's Champion, and that is Jackson Drake. As you know, he is a member of the Vanity Project, a faction that declared themselves that they are going to control Evolve. But this is only just the first step, in case anybody asks, and they're making their statement to anybody in the locker room. But, however, we haven't heard yet who's going to be challenging Jackson Drake for the title, so we just have to wait and see. Now, Lean Cinderella, as you know, recently had his dealings with Vanity Project about 2 weeks ago. As you remember, he was part of that three-way match that will determine who will get the final spot at the Fatal 4-Way leading to that championship match. Well, he said that he's going to call in a couple of favors to deal in a 3-on-3 match. So the real question, who will he call? That's a very excellent question. Now, Wes Lee, along with Dyson Tupon and Tyreek Eway, made their presence known, knowing that he will be in the main event to take on Cappuccino Jones. Of course, you know, Wes Lee doesn't think that Cappuccino Jones has what it takes to take him on. Well, we'll see what happens until then. Now, our first match of Evolve, we do have Zeta Steel teaming up with Nikita Lyons taking on Mason Holiday and Layla Diggs. Now, I have to say, the match was pretty good. I'm not going to lie. I mean, never seen Mason Holiday and Layla Diggs that much. I mean, Layla Diggs, I have seen her at NXT Level Up many last year, but however, now she has grown. It seems like these two were a very strong team until, of course, for some odd reason, Chantel Monroe showed up and caused the match, causing a distraction. And of course, this led to Zeta Steel picking up the win by pinning, of course, Mason Holiday and just like that. But it's still unclear why did Chantel Monroe decide to get involved. So we'll see what happens until then. Now, as you know, Carly Armstrong showed some disrespect towards Natalia. Well, of course, Natalia decided that they have to team up to take on Nikita Lyons and Zeta Steel. So this is one of those moments where, of course, either Callie Armstrong gets with the program or she screwed herself over for nothing. Now, our next match, we have Jamal Hampton taking on Izgal. Now, Jamal Hampton in the time had a different name like Troy Yearwood, so now he had to change his name. But Izgal, as you know, decided to rain on his parade when he was signing a contract with the Prime Minister Evolve, Stevie Turner. But the one thing I don't think anybody expected is that, of course, Jamal was able to pick up the win against Izgal. I mean, he was very impressive until, of course, Izgal in fact was attempting to dismantle his knee. It backfired too much. He applied a jackhammer, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was done. Now, Marcus Mathers, as you know, many of you may have seen him in the Independent. He is part of the WWE ID Prospect. Of course, he is making his presence known in Evolve. As you know, we don't know what's next for him. We do know he is talented. We know he's capable of anything. So we'll just wait and see. Now, our main event features Cappuccino Jones and Wes Lee. I have to say, the match was incredible. Now, of course, at moments, Wes Lee thought he had this match in his favor no matter what. But of course, he had his insurance policy to be there. We're talking about those idiots, Tyreek Eway and Tyson DuPont, to get involved. But of course, Jack Cartwheel did took out, I think it was DuPont, but it was not enough. Even though Wes Lee tried to win it in a way, but unfortunately, things didn't go according to plan for Cappuccino Jones until Wes Lee applied the cardiac kick, and just like that, 1, 2, 3 is over. However, I don't know Wes Lee will respect him or continue to be the jackass that he is. Well, we'll just have to wait and see next week or so, because of course he calls himself the gatekeeper. Well, sooner or later the gates will break. So until then, we'll see what happens next week. But as of right now, let's move on to our next and final review, AEW Summer Blockbuster. Okay, AEW Summer Blockbuster. We have both Dynamite and Collision together, so bear with me on this one. It's going to be a long one. Now we open up with, of course, with Will Ospreay versus Swerve Strickland. This is part 2 of their epic battle. Now this match was called upon, as you know, Will Ospreay is trying to rally the troops to help support Hangman in hopes to bring back the AEW World Title from Jon Moxley's scraps. And of course, the match was crazy. It was high spots everywhere. I mean, great moves, but unfortunately this match ended with the draw, which is the last thing anybody needs. But however, I'm sure Swerve was intending to continue on until the Death Riders made their presence known. As you know, the Death Riders, as you know, will not take this kindly with, of course, Swerve Strickland getting involved. And then, of course, the Bucks out of nowhere attack Swerve, and then they decided to get a little measure of revenge against him for what happened at Anarchy in the Arena at Double or Nothing. But however, the most surprising thing that happened, Will Ospreay took a bullet for Swerve, and I think Swerve was a bit of shock that he did that for him. I don't think anybody intended. Even the Bucks were shocked. They didn't expect that from Will one way or the other, but he did. So the obvious question is, will Swerve finally wake up and see the problem? That this is no longer about individual egos. This is about bringing back the title, and sooner or later, of course, they'll go back to things how they were. But we'll get to that at some point. Now, we did see Kazuchika Okada, as you know, having an interview with Renee Paquette. As you know, there's going to be a contract signing against his match with Kenny Omega at All In, which is going to be a winner-takes-all match. However, Don Callis, as you know, he had his head so far up his ass, complaining and bitching about that it should have been Takeshita or Kyle Fletcher taking on, of course, Kenny Omega. But, of course, Okada was not having it until he told him, until, of course, the Don Callis family showed up. Fletcher, Takeshita, and Lance Archer. But, of course, without Okada, with his usual catchphrase, he just told him, bitch. So I'm sure he is in shock about it. I mean, Don Callis is a snake. He's a temper tantrum crybaby. Now, moving on. Now, the Hurt Syndicate recently attacked Commander. As you know, he got in their faces. Well, apparently, Commander was out, so it ended in that fashion. However, our next match features, of course, a man that will possibly deal with MJF, and that is Mystico. He faces against Blake Christian. Of course, you know, Mystico is legendary. We all know he's that good. We know he's impressive. Excuse me. But, however, of course, Mystico was able to pick up the win when he applied an avalanche Spanish Fly, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. But, however, the Hurt Syndicate showed up, and MJF decided to get in his face. And, of course, Mystico was not going to back down regardless, so he got into his face until there was a beatdown on him by the Hurt Syndicate. But, luckily, of course, we did see Mascara Dorada, Kevin Knight, and Mike Bailey to the rescue of this match. However, of course, we did jump into the Hurt Syndicate. Basically, we did see, of course, interesting moments, but however, MVP decided to get involved when Mike Bailey wasn't planning to do the Ultimate Weapon, but whacked Mike Bailey with the knee with his cane, allowing for MJF to apply, of course, a hammerlock DDT onto Bailey, and just like that, it was over. However, of course, the Hurt Syndicate's motto is, we hurt people. Well, that's exactly what they did. And of course, MJF attacked Mascara Dorada and removed his mask, which is a sign of disrespect. But sooner or later, MJF is going to get what he's had coming. Now, the Death Riders came out of nowhere, bringing Hangman Page. As you know, they just, of course, don't want Hangman to win. But however, John Moxley is telling him that he has 4 weeks to get his head up his butt and all this. But of course, Hangman was not going to take that kindly until the Ops showed up and deal with him. So sooner or later, something's going to change. Now, our next match, we have Penelope Ford and Megan Bayne teaming up once again, taking on the reunited Anna Jay, and Tay Melo. As you all know, these two ladies actually met during the time of the Jacksonville days, of course, in Daly's Place, when they were part of that AEW Women's Tag Team Tournament. And of course, that led them to have a great bond, have some insane matches. But the real question is, how long is there still ring rust after all these years? Well, that is something we will probably have to see. But I have to say they did a pretty good job. One thing, it was interesting. Megan Bayne almost had this match won, but if it wasn't for Anna Jay to applying the Queen Slayer onto Megan Bayne, that would be the end of it. But however, of course, it was a Tay Melo who was able to pick up the win when she took out, of course, Penelope Ford, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. Now, as you know, we have the contract signing involving the winner takes all match. However, Tony Schiavone, who was the mediator of this contract signing, as you probably know, they decided once this winner is declared, there's going to be a brand new championship called the AEW Unified Championship, which is awesome. However, once again, Don Callis was his usual temper tantrum, he feels that it should be Kyle Fletcher or Takeshita winning this belt. But of course, things got out of hand with Okada attacking him, and then, of course, Don Callis, who had his history with Kenny, decided to attack him, and this time they attacked him in the same spot where, of course, Kenny got hurt in the past, and of course Kenny was bleeding out. So we don't know how his condition's going to be in the next 4 weeks, but I'm sure he'll get his revenge on Don Callis for what he did, that little snake of the grass. Now, Adam Cole joined the commentary booth because he wants to be part of it. However, he had to keep an eye on the man. As you know, he faced before, but the match ended in a DQ. Kyle Fletcher facing against Anthony Bowens. Now, Anthony Bowens, I have to say, he is a very strong, capable wrestler, but however, Kyle Fletcher, who's been developing his killer instinct, was way more better. But of course, Archer attacked Billy Gunn, and then leaving, of course, Anthony Bowens without the bit of the support system he needed. But it was, of course, Fletcher with the brainbuster onto Anthony Bowens, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. Now we have Carlos Cabrera showing up, introducing a man, as you know, who's been around for decades. He's a living legend. We're talking about Atlantis. He was accompanied by his son Atlantis Jr. However, Stokely Hathaway, along with FTR, who, of course, they can't stand someone calling themselves living legends. Like, bitch, it's not gonna happen. You're not living legend. But of course, things got out of control until until they attacked Atlantis Jr. And then, of course, Adam Cole showed up to help out. And then, of course, the Don Callis family comes out. Then we see Bandito and Templario. Then Brody King even out the odds. So, however, this thing between them is going to lead up to, of course, Arena Mexico real soon. Now, we do see Big Bill and Brian Keith having an interview with Lexi. Well, however, they were interrupted by a team that we haven't seen for quite some time. We're talking about Anthony Drake and JD Drake and Anthony Henry, the Workhorsemen. So it's great to see them. So it's going to be an interesting match between them. Now, Mercedes Moné joined the commentary booth to watch, of course, the match between Toni Storm and Julie Hart. Of course, Mercedes was having her dinner watching it, but as usual, Toni Storm was able to walk away with the win with the inside cradle, and just like that, it was over. But of course, Monet decided to attack her. Then, of course, Minas came out to help. Then Mercedes Moné continued with some more of the beatdown. Now, Lex Lanier conducted another interview with Ricochet. As you know, Ricochet is looking for a brand new team. It seems two guys decided that they want to be part of it, and that is, of course, Lee Johnson and Blaine Christian. And of course, Ricochet has mentioned he's been keeping an eye on them, but we'll see how things will tense from there. Now, we did see a 6 mixed tag team match. We have Tomohiro Ishii and Mark Briscoe, along with Willow Nightingale, in a somewhat of a conglomeration reunion. They take on Tail Valkyrie and MXM Collection match. Pretty good, not to mention real funny when, of course, moments with MXM Collection, what they tried to do. But in the end, it was Willow Nightingale who picked up the win with the Dr. Bomb Mantea, and just like that, it was over. Now, Chris Statlander, as you know, in the back, as you know, she felt like, okay, she's willing to accept that this thing between Willow and her are completely done. And of course, Wheeler Yuta showed up out of nowhere, saying that she's proud of her, that she doesn't need them. It's more like they tried to recruit her. And of course, Marina showed up. As you know, part Marina Shafir is trying to put her in her place. Wheeler Yuta thought that he had right where she needed her, but however, Marina Shafir is not having. It's like telling him, shut up. So, if I was him, don't smile. Now, our next match, we have Beast Mortals versus Bandito. As you know, they have faced each other countless times, but it was no difference on this one. It was Bandito with a pinfall onto the Beast Mortals. 1, 2, 3, it was over. Now, Renee Paquette did an interview with Mercedes Moné. As you know, she has talked about her match at All In against Toni Storm, as you know, trying to obtain this belt. However, she decided another belt should be collected into her waist, and that is, of course, the CML Women's World Championship, and she declared a challenge. However, the current champion, Yuvia, accepted the challenge by punching her. So, we'll just see what happens until then. Now, Renee Paquette talked to Hangman, who was trying to get an update on Will Ospreay of his condition, until Hangman wanted to talk to see how he's doing. However, the Bucks decided to get involved and told them the same old story, we're doing this for you and all this, but Hangman was not having it. He told them, stay out of his business, stay out of Ospreay's business, and of course, stay out of Swerve's business, because they said the next time he'll put them in a house and leave them the burn, because it wouldn't be the first time. Not to mention, Nana was listening, and of course, he asked Swerve while Ospreay was being checked out if he heard everything. So the real question is, does Swerve now believes that Hangman is not really in cahoots with the Bucks? Because it seems like Hangman doesn't want nothing to do with them. So we'll see what happens. Now, our next match, we have Tekla take on Queen Aminata. As you know, Tekla made her presence known a week ago, taking on Lady Frost. Well, of course, Tekla won, but however, she faces Queen Aminata, who is very impressive, showing a bit of her strength and her technical abilities. But unfortunately, Tekla was able to walk away with the win with the Death Trap, and just like that, it was completely over. Now, we did see a bit of an interview with Lex Neer, talking to Nick Wayne and Kip Sabian, presenting, of course, Nick Wayne's uh, work at in the New Japan's Best of the Super Junior, so you can see all the matches there. Our main event, we have the Don Callis family, Hechiseto, Lance Archer, Josh Alexander, and Konosuke Takeshita, taking on Daniel Garcia and Paragon. Roderick Strong, Kyle O'Reilly, and Adam Cole. So, of course, there was going to be distractions coming, of course, from RPG Vice and whoever gets involved in this. But, however, in the end, it was a German suplex by Josh Alexander onto Roderick Strong, and just like that, it was over. But the real question is, what's going to happen next? Well, we'll have to see. As you know, next week, AEW will be making their presence known at Arena Mexico, so that's going to be fun. So, as of right now, we are officially done with our news updates. With our reviews. Let's move on to some news updates. Okay, so welcome to our news updates. So let's begin with upcoming events. As you know, AAA will have Triplemania Regia and Monterrey on the 15th of June. They just announced the X Division Championship will be defended. Moose will defend his championship in a fatal four-way, featuring himself taking on El Mesias, Hijo de Dr. Wagner, and of course, say his name and he appears. I believe in Joe Hendry. Yep. So, moving on. Sendai girls will have their next event on the 26th of June in the Sendai pit. Now, this one was announced. Aya Sakura, as you know, who is the current Sendai girls world junior champion. Well, she hasn't defended her championship ever since defeating Chi-Chi about a month or two ago. Now she gets her first title defense against Yuna, someone who, as you know, also tried to obtain this belt. So this is going to be interesting. So we'll see how this is going to turn out. I can't wait to see it. And then finally, Spark Joshi, Puroresu of America, with their upcoming Texas event, Ignite Texas, on the 29th of June. They announced Kai Vibes will be participating. Now on to developments. Well, today during on X, Lady Frost has revealed that after 9 years of marriage, she and her now ex-husband Victor Benjamin, as known as the Savage Gentleman, they are officially divorced. So very sad to hear about that. I mean, they were a great team. They teamed up very well, but we wish nothing for the best, and I hope Lady Frost heals from this. I'm sure she'll move on, and of course move on to the best thing in her life. It's sad that this happened to her, but it is what it is. Now, Fightful Select reports, as you know, that the American Gladiators are coming back. They just announced two names will be participating, for wrestlers who we probably know from any promotion. The first one they announced is Jesse Golders from TNA, and then of course we have Riddick Boggs from WWE. So basically, these two gentlemen are now cast, of course, of the American Gladiators. So I haven't heard anything about that, but it's going to be interesting. Now, WWE, as you know, they made the decision, instead of having their next WrestleMania event for 2026 in New Orleans, they're returning to Las Vegas. It appears that now that they're building relations with the Las Vegas people, and it seems that's going to happen. I feel bad for the people of New Orleans. I'm sure that the hotels and other places were looking forward to it, but it is what it is. Now, it appears that Mr. Iguana has now been, as you know, part of AAA, has now drawn the attention of WWE. It appears that WWE has an interest of signing Mr. Iguana, but here's what the interesting part that was revealed. It appears that the WWE has interest having Mr. Iguana in the main roster, so they want him to skip NXT. This is not the first time, of course, wrestlers have skipped NXT. Well, we could see that. So I could see why. I can't wait to see what happens. So we'll just have to wait and see how things will roll over with Iguana. So I think that's pretty much it we have. So let's just call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Coming up, as you know, we have TNA and Ring of Honor, so that's going to be our main priority of the next episode. I haven't decided what else I'm going to be doing. I'm behind on certain events. I'm sure I'll catch up, so we'll see what happens. But as of right now, that's the main point, and ROH and TNA. So until then, I will see you guys in the next DWZ time. Same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye. Mwah. And have a nice day. Bang.